I never thought I'd get to a point where my own wife would betray me like this, but here I am, trying to piece together how everything went so wrong. Sarah and I had been together for almost 10 years. When we got married, I thought we were solid. She was smart, confident, a little bitchy sometimes, but sharp as hell, and honestly, I loved her. We had a good life, or so I thought. We traveled, we had a nice house, I was working as an engineer, mainly on deep-sea exploration tech, which is my passion, and she was doing well at her job in marketing. Things weren't perfect, but I believed in us. At first, the signs of trouble were small. She started acting distant, secretive even. I'd catch her glancing at her phone more often than usual, texting late into the night. She'd snap at me over small things, saying I was being paranoid. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe she was stressed, maybe work was just wearing her down. I tried to be understanding. But then I noticed her mood changing. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, and her stories about where she'd been started to seem inconsistent. I'd find her makeup bag in strange places she'd never normally go, or her phone was password protected when it used to be open. One night, I came home earlier than expected from a business trip. I was eager to surprise her, maybe catch her off guard, see her face when I walked in. But what I saw instead was her sneaking out of our bedroom, clutching her phone tightly. When I asked her what she was doing, she shot me a cold glare. "Nothing," she snapped, brushing past. That's when I saw the faint smell of another man's cologne on her clothes. My stomach sank. From that moment, I started paying closer attention. I noticed her emails, her messages, things that didn't add up. She was communicating with someone named Mark, a guy from her work, but the tone was too intimate, too flirtatious. I even found explicit messages between them, talking about how good it felt to be with each other, about their secret meetings. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. My mind raced, trying to process how she could lie so easily, how she could betray me after all these years. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. Every time I thought about her, her lies, her secret life, I got a mix of rage and heartbreak. I mean, I knew she wasn't perfect, but I never thought she'd cheat on me, especially not with some guy from her work who was clearly just using her for sex and maybe some emotional validation. It was like I'd been played, like I was some fool who trusted the wrong person. And the worst part, I couldn't confront her yet. I needed to be sure. I started digging, going through her emails, her phone, her social media, trying to catch her in the act or at least find undeniable proof. It was a slow, painful process. Every new discovery made my stomach churn. I'd catch her in tiny lies, see her trying to hide stuff, her phone always in her purse, her excuses starting to sound empty. She was a bitch about it, always dismissive when I confronted her, telling me I was overreacting, that I was imagining things. But I knew better. I could see the truth in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking, and what I saw was a woman who was deeply unfaithful. I never imagined I'd be in a situation like this, cheated on, betrayed, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut so hard I almost couldn't breathe. But here I was, gathering evidence, trying to stay rational even as my mind raced with betrayal and heartbreak. I kept asking myself, how long had she been doing this? How many nights did she spend with Mark behind my back? Did she even love me anymore, or was I just some placeholder in her life? It's a strange feeling, realizing the person you trust most in the world has been lying to you for months, maybe longer. It's like your entire foundation is starting to crack, and suddenly, everything you believed about your marriage feels fragile, fake. After I found the messages and evidence, I felt like I was hit by a freight train. My mind was racing, my heart pounding so loudly I thought everyone in the house could hear it. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, staring at my phone, trying to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to just cut and run, forget everything, erase her from my life. But a bigger part, damaged and angry, wanted answers. I needed to confront her, see her face, hear her lie to me directly. I wasn't going to hide from this, I was going to face it head on. The next day, I waited until she was home from work. I could see her car pull into the driveway, her heels clicking on the pavement. My stomach tightened. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand the truth. Instead, I kept quiet, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. She entered, eyes flickering nervously, a little bitchy smirk on her face like she knew she was hiding something, like she was trying to act innocent. I blocked her path and said, "We need to talk." Her eyes widened just for a second, then she tried to brush past me, but I grabbed her arm. "Don't lie to me, Sarah. I've seen the messages. I know what you've been doing." My voice was trembling with rage, but I forced myself to stay controlled. She blinked, then scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was some kind of idiot. "Oh, come on, Ryan, you're overreacting. It's not what you think." Her tone was dismissive, but I saw the sweat on her forehead, the way her hands trembled slightly. I pushed her against the wall. "You've been lying for months. I found the messages, the photos, everything. Who is Mark? What the hell is going on?" She looked away for a second, then turned back, her face twisting into something almost hateful. "Look, Ryan, it's none of your business. I was just talking to him, okay? It meant nothing. You're making a big deal out of nothing." "Yeah, right." That was her favorite line, nothing, like her sex with Mark was some casual fling. I could see the bullshit in her eyes. She started to cry, fake tears, I could tell, but her words cut deeper. "You don't understand, Ryan. You're always so busy with your stupid deep-sea projects. You don't give me any attention. Mark's just someone who listens, someone who actually cares." That was her excuse. She tried to make me the bad guy for being busy, for working on my passion. But I knew better. I knew it was about more than that. She'd been cheating because she wanted something else, something she was getting from Mark that she wasn't getting from me. The confrontation ended with her snapping at me, calling me paranoid, saying I was crazy for believing she could do something like this. She told me I was suffocating her, that I didn't understand her needs. That was her way of twisting it, making me feel guilty. I just stood there, feeling the cold emptiness inside me grow stronger. I'd lost my best friend, my wife, the person I trusted most. It was like my entire world was crashing down, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. That night I couldn't sleep. Instead, I sat in the living room watching her pack her bags. She kept lying, trying to justify everything, but her words sounded hollow. I felt so betrayed, so angry. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, how I didn't see the signs earlier, how I didn't notice the little things. I'd always thought we were solid, that we had something real. And now I saw she'd been playing me all along, just using me. It hurt so badly I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of lies and betrayal. I knew I had to make a choice. Part of me wanted to scream, to lash out, to ruin everything. But another part, more rational, knew I had to think about what came next. I wasn't going to be some fool caught in her web of lies. I needed to plan my move carefully, to protect myself emotionally and maybe even physically. Because I could feel the anger boiling inside me, and I knew this wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The following morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was a mess, anger, hurt, betrayal, everything crashing down at once. I knew I had to do something, but I also knew I couldn't let her see how much she'd broken me. I decided to play it cool, to gather more evidence, and to plan my next move carefully. I couldn't afford to be impulsive. I had to approach this with a clear head. I started by going through her things again, looking for anything I might have missed. I checked her phone, her email, her social media accounts, anything that could give me more insight into her betrayal. While doing that, I stumbled across an unexpected message. It was a text from Mark, sent late last night after she told me she was at her sister. It read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about you all day. This pressure resistance thing you worked out for the submersible, hilarious cover for our underwater meetings. No one suspects a thing." I froze. My heart pounded. The phrase pressure resistance was code, I realized. It was their cover story for meeting secretly during the ocean exploration project we'd been working on. This wasn't just a fling. It was something she planned to hide, something she thought would be safe because of her stupid excuse about pressure resistance calculations for the submersible. That's when I pieced everything together. The nights she'd disappear, her secret meetings, her phone always on silent, all of it made sense now. She'd been using her work project as a cover for her affair with Mark. The whole thing was so stupid and elaborate, but it explained her behavior perfectly. She'd been lying to my face, sneaking around, all while pretending she was busy with pressure resistance stuff for the sub. I felt so betrayed, like I'd been a fool to trust her, to believe this was all just innocent. I knew I couldn't confront her just yet. I needed more proof, and I needed a plan. I spent the rest of that day setting up a little trap. I installed a hidden recorder in the house, just enough to catch her at her worst. I also reached out to a private investigator I knew from a previous project, someone I could trust to dig up her whereabouts when she was away. I was determined to get all the facts before making any big moves. I didn't want her to spin another lie to manipulate me again. She'd already lied enough, too much. That night I sat quietly in the living room, listening to her through the recorder. Her phone buzzed constantly, and I could hear her murmuring, her voice getting more and more frantic as she talked to Mark. They discussed their next rendezvous, how they'd sneak out the back, how she'd lie to her boss about being ill. She sounded excited, almost giddy, like she was living a double life that she didn't care if I knew about. It was worse than I expected. I could feel my stomach twisting in knots. I'd been so naive to believe she was just stressed or busy. She was constantly lying, cheating, and pretending everything was fine. The investigator got back to me the next day. It confirmed everything I'd suspected. She'd been meeting Mark multiple times, not just during work hours but also late at night. They'd been planning this for weeks, maybe even months. She had a whole secret life I didn't even know about. And the worst part, she was so good at hiding it, convincing everyone she was just a bitchy, ambitious woman working hard. But behind closed doors, she was screwing around with some guy who built her pressure resistance cover story for their underwater rendezvous. That phrase, pressure resistance, kept echoing in my mind. They'd spun it as a technical thing, but it was just their code for sneaking away, for fucking in secret. I felt so many things at once: anger, sadness, disgust. I couldn't believe how deep this betrayal went. My whole relationship with her suddenly felt like a lie, a sham. I was furious at her for cheating, but I was also angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How blind could I be? I had dedicated so much of my life to my work, trying to build something meaningful, and now I was just left with this shattered trust. I kept thinking about all the times she's lied to my face, all the nights she'd been with Mark while I was at work or traveling. It was a flood of emotion I didn't know how to handle. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living like this, knowing she'd betrayed me so completely. I started planning my next move, trying to figure out how to confront her again, how to face the truth head on. But I also knew one thing: I was done being passive. This wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about what I was going to do to protect myself, to get out of this mess with some dignity intact. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I wasn't going to let her control me anymore. The ball was in my court now. I just had to decide what to do with it. Over the next few days, every moment felt like walking on thin ice. I was collecting my thoughts, trying to steel myself for whatever confrontation was coming. I knew she was planning to meet Mark again that night, and I decided that I would be ready. I had to be calm, calculated, no outbursts, no screaming, even though every fiber of my being screamed to just blow everything apart. I couldn't let her see how much she'd broken me, not yet. I needed a plan, a way to catch her in the act if possible, or at least confront her with undeniable proof. That evening, I arranged for her to find out I knew everything. I left her a note, something simple but chilling. I know about Mark. We need to talk, be home by 8. I set up my phone to record her at that exact time, just in case she tried to cover her tracks again. Then I left the house, claiming I needed some air, and went to a nearby coffee shop to wait. I watched her from a distance, heart pounding in my chest, as she hurriedly left the house, looking over her shoulder, clutching her purse tight. She looked nervous, and I knew she was aware that I was onto her, that she was trying to cover her tracks. She met Mark at the same secluded spot they'd used before, and I could see them whispering, her hands nervously fiddling with a necklace. I kept the recorder on, silent but capturing everything. I felt sick watching her, knowing she was betraying me even as I sat there, pretending to be just a concerned husband. The conversation was brief, but I caught enough. She told him she was ready, that she'd be gone for a while. Then she kissed him goodbye and slipped into her car. I followed at a distance, keeping my cool until she pulled into a small, empty parking lot near the coast. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I got out of my car, approached her, and made sure she saw me. Her face drained of color when she saw me standing there, still in my coat, watching her. I didn't say a word at first. I just played the recording on my phone, letting her listen to every word she'd spoken with Mark. The lies, the planning, the way she'd betrayed everything we built. Her reaction was priceless. She looked like a cornered animal trying to act like she was innocent. "Ryan, I can explain," she sputtered, her voice trembling. "It's not what it looks like. I was just talking. It's nothing serious." Her words felt hollow, and I knew better. I pressed play on the recorder again, and her face blanched. She began to stammer, trying to deny everything, trying to spin some bullshit about how she was just lonely, how Mark was just a friend, how she never meant for it to get this far. I didn't want to hear her lies anymore. I told her, "You don't get to lie to me anymore. I've seen everything. I know about the meetings, about the sex, about how you've been using my project as a cover for your fucking affair." Her eyes flickered with fury and desperation. She snapped back, "You're crazy. You don't understand how I feel. You're never around. Mark's the only person who really listens to me. You don't care about me anymore." That was the moment I realized she didn't even care about my feelings. She was so focused on justifying herself, on defending her actions. All I could feel was a deep, searing disappointment. I'd spent so much time trying to believe in this marriage, trying to see the good in her. But she'd been lying right in front of me, cheating on me with some guy I'd never even met. And for what? Some fleeting feeling she couldn't even articulate. Some stupid excuse about needing pressure resistance for her work, which was just her cover for the affair. It was all bullshit. I told her to pack her things, that I was done with her lies. She started crying again, this time with real tears, but I didn't care. I was too angry, too hurt. I told her she'd crossed a line I couldn't forgive. That I deserved more than this fake life she'd been living. I warned her I was done, that I'd file for divorce, and that I was done trusting her again. She begged me, cried, tried to make me see her side, but I wasn't listening anymore. My trust was shattered, and I knew I had to walk away before it consumed me. That night, I sat alone, staring at the empty house, feeling the hollow ache of betrayal. I realized how much I'd let her manipulate me, how I'd ignored the signs because I wanted to believe in us. I thought about all the years I'd put into this marriage, and how she'd thrown it away for some guy who built her pressure resistance for underwater habitats. And not because she loved him, but because she'd wanted to feel alive again, to escape her dull, bitchy existence with someone who actually paid attention to her. That realization stung more than anything. I thought I knew her, but I'd been blind. So blind. The hardest part now was figuring out what came next. I knew I'd have to let her go, accept that she was gone, and move on. The pain was raw, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I was finally free from her lies, her games. But still, I wondered, how do you rebuild after something like this? How do you trust again? How do you forget the betrayal of the person who was supposed to be your life partner? I didn't have those answers yet, but I knew I couldn't stay. Not anymore. The days that followed were a blur of chaos and reflection. I cleaned out her side of the closet, packed her stuff, and handed her a divorce paper I had drafted that morning. Watching her leave, her face twisted. In anger and guilt was some twisted form of relief. I knew I'd done the right thing, but it didn't make the ache any easier. I still felt the sting of betrayal, the hollow ache of being played for a fool. For all my work on exploring the depths of the ocean, the pressure resistance calculations, the technical mastery, that part of me felt like it was finally collapsing. I stayed up most nights, replaying everything, trying to understand how she had managed to lie so convincingly for so long. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, what I could have done differently, but deep down I knew it wasn't about me. It was about her need to escape her dull routine, to feel alive again, even if it meant destroying what we had. It was hard to accept that the person I thought I knew, the person I loved, had been hiding this secret life, this whole other person behind my back. One thing that struck me was her constant denial during our confrontation. She kept claiming she never meant for it to go this far. Sure, that's what she said, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was completely self-absorbed, more interested in her own needs than our marriage. I realized she was always a bit of a bitch, demanding, manipulative, quick to lie and throw blame, and this whole ordeal just confirmed it. I'd been blind to it, but now I saw her true face. I also learned a few hard lessons about trust. When someone lies that much, it's like a spider web. Once it's broken, it's impossible to mend without scars. I've always been someone who believed in honesty and loyalty, but this taught me that sometimes people are just good at hiding their true selves. I should have seen the signs earlier. I should have trusted my instincts when she started acting weird, when she hid her phone, when she was overly defensive. But I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe in us. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started therapy, trying to process the trauma, the betrayal, the hurt. It's not easy. Every time I think I've moved past it, I get a flashback, a pang of anger or sadness. I've had to remind myself that this isn't my fault, that I did everything I could to keep our marriage together. She chose her own path, one filled with lies, sex with Mark, and betrayal. I can't change that. One thing I keep telling myself now is that I deserve better. I deserve honesty, loyalty, someone who respects me. I won't settle for a fake life, a lie wrapped in pretty words. I've learned that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people cheat and lie because they're too broken to be honest or because they're too selfish. And no matter how much you try to fix it, some damage just can't be undone. Moving forward, I plan to focus on myself. I've started exploring new hobbies, reconnecting with friends, and even taking a trip to the coast I've always loved. It's not about trying to forget her, that's impossible, but about healing, about reclaiming what's left of myself. I know I won't forget what happened overnight, but I do believe I'll get stronger. One day, I hope I can look back at this and see it as a lesson, a painful but necessary part of my growth. So to anyone out there facing something similar, here's my advice. Trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how insignificant they seem. When someone lies to you, it chips away at your trust. It doesn't come back easily. And most importantly, don't be afraid to walk away if that's what you need. You're better than someone who cheats and manipulates. Life's too short to be stuck in something that's broken beyond repair. Keep your head up and remember, you're worth more than the lies they tell. Now that I've had some time to breathe and reflect, I realize how much this whole experience has changed me. I used to think I was a logical guy, focused on my work, always trying to keep my emotions in check. But this has broken through all of that. The betrayal cut so deep that it forced me to confront feelings I'd kept buried. I've learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to restore fully. But I've also learned that standing up for myself, even in the worst moments, is the only way to reclaim my dignity. Looking back, I see how her lies were part of a pattern. Her bitchy attitude, her dismissiveness, her constant need for validation outside of what we shared. It's clear now she was never truly invested in us, just in her own fleeting sense of excitement or escape. That realization hurts, but it also frees me. I don't have to chase after someone who doesn't want to be honest. I don't have to live in fear of her secrets anymore. I've come to understand that sometimes love isn't enough, and that's okay. I'm not angry anymore, just disappointed. Disappointed in her and in myself for not seeing the warning signs sooner. But I'm grateful for the lessons because they've forced me to grow. I'm learning to prioritize myself, to value my own happiness and integrity above all else. And I'm determined to rebuild my life on a new foundation, one that's honest, real, and free from betrayal. In the end, I realized that I was lucky. Lucky I caught her before things got even worse. Lucky I have the strength to walk away and start over. And I want anyone reading this to know, no matter how much it hurts now, time will help you heal. Trust your instincts, protect your heart, and never settle for someone who lies to you. You deserve someone who respects you, who values honesty, and who won't cheat or betray your trust. So I'm moving forward. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm done being a victim of her lies. I'll take the lessons I've learned and turn them into strength. I'll rebuild my life piece by piece, knowing that I've survived something that would have broken most people. And I'll never forget, never let anyone lie to me again. Because at the end of the day, the only person you truly have is yourself. And I'm going to make sure I'm better for it.